Okay, good afternoon, folks. Happy Wednesday. We've got another Master Gardeners class today, and we've got Cindy Morris and Cynthia Nations here talking about houseplants. As always, send all your questions via chat, and we'll address them towards the end of the talk. And this class is being recorded, and you can find the class under Linkso's Community Resources page, um, which is linked in the chat. So welcome all, and welcome Cindy and Cynthia.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's not advancing. It's not advancing.
Try clicking on the actual PowerPoint again.
All right.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you. So we'd like to welcome you to the UC Master Garden Program of San Mateo and San Francisco counties. We're a group of committed volunteers providing outreach and community education on home horticulture, pest management, and sustainable landscape practices to our joint counties since 2006. Houseplant education became very popular during COVID times when many were confined to indoor spaces, and UC Master Gardeners developed a series of houseplant presentations to assist the public with growing plants indoors. So this presentation on popular houseplants is part of this series, and we're happy to have you here today. So our learning goals for today are just a very brief overview of understanding houseplant names. We're going to do just a little bit about propagation, and we're going to go over different kinds of houseplants, and I think that this will be very interesting. These are the houseplants that most people have asked questions about during previous presentations. And that's how we came about having this popular houseplant presentation. And then we're going to show you a bunch of different ways to display our houseplants. So understanding houseplant names. The common names fluctuate. One person might call this a snake plant, while others calls it mother-in-law's tongue. So the genus name is always the first word in the plant's botanical name, and then the species name is the second word in a botanical name, and this identifies plants specifically. I noticed that in many plants, especially I have a great collection of succulents. The species have they just keep on making new species, hybridizing different plants, and so different species have come about, especially in the last 10 years. And I can tell you that this Dracaena, we used to call it a Dracaena. It used to be Sansevieria, and now because of the different things that they've experiments and how they have analyzed the makings of this plant, they have decided that it is a Dracaena instead of a Sansevieria, which I always thought that's what it was. Okay. So houseplant propagation. I'm having a bit of a trouble advancing the slides. So there's different ways of houseplant propagation, and I know that many of you might be familiar with these ways. They include dividing, rooting a leaf, rooting a stem, or a cane cutting, and air layering are the most popular ways. And my best and to me easiest way is to do plant division. And you can do this with snake plants or ferns, ZZ plants, or peace lilies. And basically what you do is you just take them out of the pot, and they're usually overgrown, and you divide them. That is a ZZ plant. Zamioculca zamifolia is a crazy name for it, genus and species. And a ZZ plant that I recently actually divided myself, and I divided it into 3 sections, and now 2 other rooms in my house have a ZZ plant. Very easy to divide. You can also divide by stem leaf cuttings, which is a very easy way to divide a plant as well. You have to select a medium-sized, healthy-looking leaf, and you cut the stem about 2 inches below the base of the leaf. You can insert the stem of the leaf in a rooting compound and place it in soil and water the soil well. And you can make a plastic tent with the leaf and the pot if you can, and put an elastic band around the pot. It kind of makes like a mini greenhouse around it. The plants will make shoots in the pot, and the shoots can either remain in this pot or be potted into another pot. And this takes a little bit longer, but it's worth the effort. So leaf cuttings is a very challenging way for me to, and I have tried this actually with a Sansevieria, or now it's called something else. A mother-in-law's tongue. We'll just do the common name. So if you have a plant with thick, fleshy leaves like a Sansevieria, it can be propagated by cutting long leaves into 3 to 4 inch pieces. And it just the first time I tried this, I couldn't believe that it would actually do it, but it did. So let the cut leaves dry for a couple of days. We always have to whenever we do a cutting, especially like with succulents or this leaf cuttings, you need to let them dry for a few days. And you insert the cuttings vertically into the medium. So a Sansevieria can also be rooted in water or by division. I've tried this before. As a matter of fact, I did that little fancy leaf disc, as pictured on your screen. So you remove a healthy leaf from the base of the plant. I think that these are mostly like echeverias. Let the leaf heal again, callus off for about 4 days to allow the leaf to dry or the cut to dry, and prepare a planter of soil, wet it, and place the leaf on top. Little roots and leaves will begin to sprout, as you can see in the top picture. And when the leaf eventually turns brown and falls off, it's time to repot. And you'll see the little roots coming down off of the bottom. So the best plants for leaf rooting are jade plants, which are very popular, I noticed. Snake plants, which is the Sansevieria, a ZZ plant again that I talked about. African violets, even though those leaves are very, very soft, you can leaf root them. Begonias, and I have done that with a begonia before successfully. A Christmas or Easter cactus, and echeverias and other succulents you can do this with for leaf rooting. So Cindy's going to
Okay.
talk about stem and cane rooting.
Yeah. Um, Hello, everybody. Um, this is an interesting process. This basically is cutting part of the stem off and propagating it to make a new plant. And I will say that stem cutting is truly the way to get a clone of the mother plant. Um, Anytime you take a piece of the mother plant and propagate it, you're going to get something that looks just like the mother plant, and that's what you want. So we're going to sacrifice a stem on our plant, and we're going to cut about a 2 to 6 inch stem, um, and um, it's going to be about a pencil size. We don't want it real scrawny. You want something that's, pretty good size. So, and we want to cut it right below a node. A node is where the leaves grow out of. The little spots where the leaves grow out of. If you take the leaves off and submerge it into soil, you will get roots instead of leaves. How about that? That's pretty good. So that's basically what you do. I personally don't like starting things in water. I do start a few things in water, but I don't like the aquaphobic roots that are produced from putting it in water. And they're very thin and weak, much stronger in some kind of medium, such as um, perlite, vermiculite, or a loose draining soil. Okay, Cynthia, let's turn the page. So can we go back? I'm sorry. I don't mean to, thank you. So we're going to put some root hormone on this plant at the node and at the bottom. And we're going to make a pencil hole in our medium. And we're going to carefully put the node under whatever we're growing with. And then we're going to cover it. Don't want to, shake off the root hormone. So that's basically what we do. Then we keep it in a cool place, keep it moist, and in maybe 6 weeks, you might see some leaf growth. That doesn't mean there's roots yet, but the plant is starting to develop, and soon it will develop roots. That's what we want. That's what we need, is for it to develop roots. And if you can leave a leaf or two on the plant, that's good too. I think that's basically what you need to know to start a cutting. And yeah, so you can also do this with a cane. Like something like a yucca is a good example. A yucca's got a cane on it. And um, what we do is, instead of sticking the piece of material vertically, we're going to stick it horizontally. So we're going to put root hormone on the bottom of we're going to put, the nodes will be on the bottom of the cane. We take a piece of the cane, and we want to take a piece from the growing part of the plant. We don't want to take anything too low, because the meristemic cells, which are the growth cells, are not down there. They're up in where the plant is growing. So this will aid us in growing roots. So we want to take something not too far down. It doesn't have to be the very top, but we don't want the very bottom. So we will put the nodes will be underneath. We'll put root hormone on them. And then we'll put them in our growing medium, and we'll lay the cane in, and we will not totally bury it. We'll bury it up to about 3/4, and then we'll leave the rest open. And then we'll start growing leaves and roots and things. I will say that if you want to propagate, if you're interested in that, you need to be patient, because it's going to take some time for this plant to really get to a point where you'll have a new plant. So this is certainly one way to do it. You can do it with begonias. A dragon tree, which I think is the Dracaena, on the right side of the screen, that's a Dracaena marginata. Also a Dieffenbachia and a yucca plant. That's on the left side is a begonia. It's a cane begonia. So air layering is an interesting way to propagate. This is actually done right on the plant. And so you find a place that you can sacrifice, a stem that you are willing to sacrifice on your shrub or tree. And you find a good node, and you make right underneath it, you make a upward slanting cut, 1/3 to a halfway through the stem. And then this says matchbook, but I would probably put a piece of plastic, like the bottom of a plastic spoon or something, because the matchstick might get wet and soggy. So you put a piece of plastic in the wound that you made, and then you dust it with root hormone, and then you get some moist sphagnum moss, and you wrap it, and be generous with it. Wrap it around this operation that you did. And then you want to put a plastic bag around the moss and tie it together, and just leave it for 6 weeks. At 6 weeks, you're going to open it and see how it's doing. It might not be ready. It might be ready. When it's ready, when the roots are growing and you feel you can plant it, the roots are big enough, then you cut the branch off, and you're ready to go. It's really a very interesting thing. It's very similar to grafting, except grafting you leave on the tree. You don't cut the branch off. But basically, you make a wound and you insert something, and you're good to go. The best plants for air layering are a rubber tree, which is a ficus, chafaleras. I love chafaleras. They're so easy. I grow them inside, outside. That's a plant on the left. That's a chafalera. Crotons, beautiful plants, bright yellow, orange, Russ. Just a beautiful leaved plant, very tropical, grows in Hawaii. You see them a lot in Hawaii. A monstera, which is a great big leaved plant that's an understory for large trees. A Swiss cheese plant, which is also a monstera, and a Dieffenbachia, which is on the right. Okay, Cynthia. Flowering plants. Wow. Trying to get our plants to flower in the house. That's an interesting proposition because, as you all know, these plants don't originally come from inside our house. They all grow outside. So sometimes plants are easy to bloom, for instance, like an African violet or an anthurium isn't too hard to do. But some plants, like a Dracaena or a Dieffenbachia, you'll probably never see bloom in our homes. We just don't have the right environment for them. So you can help if you really want. There's some plants that we buy at the store because they're beautifully in bloom because they come from the greenhouses, the nursery greenhouses, and they have perfect conditions. The goldfish plants, the lipstick plants, there's quite a few. They're really pretty, and we'd love for them to bloom in our home. So in order to do that, we need to give them the best chance we can. So one thing is light. Plants that bloom generally need high light. If you can imagine, if you look at that anthurium, excuse me, if you look at that anthurium, how beautiful that flower is. Can you imagine how much energy it takes to make that flower? It takes a lot of energy. So we need to give the plant a lot of light so that those leaves can take energy in from the light coming through the window, which, by the way, is nowhere even near full sun outside. Light coming in from a west window is equal to shade outside. So we have our challenges indoors. Anyway, so that would be good, giving it highlight. And there are some plants. I don't know about anybody else, but I order plants because I like to get things that I can't get in the nursery. I pay a lot more money for them, but if I want it, I want it. So, but I oftentimes get a minuscule little plant, and I know that plant couldn't possibly bloom until it has. Oops, that's my telephone. Sorry. Um, um, it couldn't possibly bloom until it has enough leaves and it gathers enough energy to bloom. So you have to be patient with those little guys. It has to be a mature size before it'll bloom. The same as with tubers and bulbs. Many times you'll order and you'll get like an iris. I've ordered iris through the mail and I've gotten a very small corm. And it takes years for it to develop into something large enough to bloom. If you really want something that's going to bloom, an African violet is your plant. And those things bloom like crazy. However, those guys are not forgiving. If you overwater it once, it'll die. It does not like to be overwatered. Like the spathiphyllum is very forgiving. It's even grown in water sometimes. Anthurium also. These are two good plants to grow if you want flowers. Okay, I think that's enough of that. And this is just what I just said. Size matters, blooming frequency. Sometimes plants not necessarily always house plants, but plants take 10 or 20 years to develop enough energy to bloom, like the century plant that we grow outside that grows that huge, tall, it's a succulent. It grows a huge, tall flower stem. And of course, light and darkness is important. Sometimes plants need some darkness to bloom. Excuse me, I'll take some water. For instance, our poinsettias, they need a certain amount of darkness to bloom at Christmas time. In nature, they don't, but if you want to force them to bloom, you need to give them some darkness. Okay. So here are some plants that will grow well in medium or south window. And these are succulents and cactuses. The succulents, calancho, which is the picture, tillandsia, orchid cactus, crown of thorns, pincushion. And of course, a lot of these will bloom much better if they're outdoors. You'll get far more blooms. That's just, the way it is. And but if you're satisfied with fewer blooms and you like to grow it inside, then they will grow inside. Cactus is a rat tail, Peruvian apple, cactus peanut, cactus, red top cactus, and a Christmas cactus. Okay. I'm sorry that I have this cough. I have allergies and asthma, and I tend to cough. Houseplants that grow in medium light or east window. The African violet does not like high light. No way, it'll burn. Begonias also, anthuriums, peace lilies, gloxinias, and bromeliads. These are good east window plants. They don't require a lot of light. I have to say, I have a spathiphyllum, a peace lily, that's on the left. I've had it for probably 10 years. It's never bloomed. I have it in a north light and by a window, and it does not bloom. So that tells me it's not getting enough light. It wants more light. So I probably should move it to an east window, and maybe I'll get a flower on it. Having flowers on your indoor plants is challenging. That's for sure. Okay. Flowering plants that require highlight are the Rieger begonia, the cane begonia, shrimp plant, lipstick plant, guppy plant, and orchids. These are all plants that produce flowers. So plants that produce flowers need high light. There are other plants like ficus requires high light. But these are the littler plants that you would put on a top of a table or something. And they definitely like light. Okay.
So next we're going to talk about easy and low light house plants. So many people have lives that are busy and they just don't have time that plants sometimes require. Also, most of us have rooms and others have a whole house that does not even get a lot of sunlight, just like Cindi was talking about. So sunlight is so important for plants. So the following plants are easy to grow, and they are for low light growers who don't have the time or patience to spend on caring for plants or need a plant that survives well in low light conditions. Easy and low light houseplants include the ZZ plant, which, this is so popular right now. I know that I've seen it in dentist office and doctor's offices and just everywhere where there is very, very little light. I know that a couple of my plants are in very, very low light, and I know that in my granddaughter's room there's hardly any light at all. And so this ZZ plant is really very popular, and you can find it in most of the box stores or popular plant stores. Also, mother-in-law tongue or snake plant, Sansevieria. Lucky bamboo is another one. You can also grow that very easily in a bathroom with very low light. And then the cast iron plant as well. So other easy and low light plant house plants are like the corn plant, which is a type of Dracaena, the dragon tree, parlor palm, spider plants, which many people have there. They're in low light, not only low light, but they like a lot of moisture. A lot of people have those like maybe hanging in their showers I've seen. And what Cindy mentioned is our peace lilies.
Uh,
Cindy will now talk about orchids.
yeah,
Another very beautiful plant, and I think she has many.
I do have many people. I have them, and so people think I like them, so they buy them for me, and I have a lot now. Um, the first thing I'm going to say about orchids is I think if you understand how they grow in nature, you will understand how to take care of them better. I know a lot of people are frustrated because they don't bloom or they rot or whatever. So orchids are telestial plants. They grow in trees. Um, they grow in trees, and the roots hang over. And there's probably many roots in the rainforest. These usually grow in a little higher elevation in China. It's still warm, but a little cooler than downtown China. So anyway, so they grow in the trees, and they just sit there and wait for rain. When it rains, they get wet all over. They get their roots wet, they get the leaves are wet, the flowers are wet, everything's wet, and it gets a really good soaking. So then the rain stops, and um, the plant dries out again, and then it reverses and it comes back and rains again. So you'll notice that there is no mention of ice cubes in this natural setting because these are tropical plants and they don't like ice. So I know a lot of you use ice cubes in your plants, and the reason that it works right now is because you're not overwatering them. However, you will freeze the roots if you keep putting ice cubes on your plants. So don't do ice cubes. So what I like to do is to take it, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes. So we probably can change screens. Um, so what is an orchid? They come from tribes. They're epiphytes, as we said. They come from tropical and subtropical trees in high light environment. Um, the light filters through the trees. They're sitting on trees, so the branches of the trees keep the harsh light off of them, but they still get a lot of light. They have fleshy roots that absorb moisture. Um, their highly specialized flowers attract specific pollinators to ensure pollination only between a single species, usually producing unusual forms and colors. Orchids are probably one of the most hybrided plant there is. The plants that we see today look nothing like the natural plants that are growing in China or in the mountains or for wherever they grow, because we've adjusted them to meet our needs. So there's about 19,000 to 24,005 species, and we do have native orchids in this country, about 211. I had a friend, and I worked in a florist for quite a while, and she came in one day and she goes, "I think I have an orchid in my backyard growing." She was very surprised and very happy. And there's over 100,000 hybrids and counting. So the growers love hybriding this orchid, this Phalaenopsis orchid. Okay. So we talked a little bit about light. These guys like highlight. Again, if you look at that flower and the amount of flowers, that's going to take a lot of energy. So that plant needs to take in a lot of energy from the sun. That's where the plant gets its energy from, is from the sun. So do give your plant generous light. And if it doesn't bloom and the leaves are healthy and perky, it means you're not giving it enough light. Move it to a higher light area. Water, I take mine to the sink and I pretend like it's raining. I turn the faucet on and let water run over it and, kind of spray it. And the plants seem to like it. Air ventilation means that we like air around the roots. This is true of any plant. So orchids they have these big fleshy roots and they like air movement around their roots. That helps produce new roots. So the growing medium that you use needs to be have air pockets in it so the roots can get air circulation. A lot of plants are grown in moss. It's not my favorite medium, but they do pretty well in it. It's not as much air pocket as, for instance, bark. Redwood bark is my favorite, but I have to live with the fact that we can't be cutting redwood trees down for bark for orchids. But I do like that to use redwood bark in my orchids. And they like humidity. So um, grouping them together sometimes creates a little humidity or some small rocks in the bottom of the water pan will help with the humidity. Or you can, I wouldn't spritz orchids. You could use a humidifier if you, so desire. And the fertilizer, uh, actually the fertilizer, when the plant is in the growing season, which is, let's see, it's probably from June to December, something like that. We want to feed it high nitrogen so that and I mean high, like 20. And so that'll help with some energy for the plants. And then once late winter up comes, that plant's going to start setting buds. So we don't want it to grow anymore. We want it to set buds. So then we switch to a high potassium. That's the second number on um, um, the bottle of the fertilizer because potassium will help set flowers. If you want to get that particular, you can. I just use one fertilizer and it seems to be fine. And I don't go crazy with fertilization. The bottle will tell you to do it once a week or once every 2 weeks. That's too much. If you're getting the correct light, you don't need to fertilize that much. And these guys do get diseases. They get mealy, scale, spider mites. They get all kinds of stuff. Um, um, what I wanted to say was when you buy an orchid, please examine it and make sure any house plant, examine it and make sure there's no bugs on it. I have a friend that bought this beautiful Schaffelera. She paid like almost $300 for it for her business. And she brought it home and that thing had mealybug on it. And it was beautiful, but within 6 months, that mealybug spread all over the plant. Very hard to get rid of. She tried everything and she just cannot get rid of it. So she has lost that plant and her investment. Okay. Um, Orchid, this is an orchid that I grew, and it's very popular plant. I grew the other orchid too. A very popular a gift. And you can dress them up. If you notice the orchid behind this orchid, I put a little moss and then I tie it with a little raffia uh, where to keep it on the stick instead of the clippies. If I'm, feeling, if I'm feeling creative. And it's very pretty. You can also wrap the sticks in floral tape to make them a little more attractive. Um, so you can do those things. And if the plant gets too cold, you will you'll have bud drop, and that means that your bud will turn yellow and drop off. I've had orchids grow outside, so the plant itself might be able to handle the cooler weather, but the flower buds can't. So we want to keep it in a somewhat warm room. I've brought orchids in from outside because I have an orchid wall that I grow on. And when the plant's in bud, I bring it inside and warm it up so that those buds will mature and bloom. Because I've had them die many times if I don't warm them up. Um, you could put your orchids outside. You have to be careful that you don't overwater them outside. But they do like the light outside. And I do have plants. I'll talk about one that I put outside. And I like bark in my plants because it has a lot of air pockets and the plant can breathe. You can also have holes in your plants. There's things called orchid pots that have holes in the side so that air circulation goes through the pot and your roots can breathe and produce a little better. Okay. Cymbidiums. This is one of my cymbidiums. And I grow it outside and I grow it in high light. High light means maybe morning, maybe till 12:30, 1 o'clock. After that, the sun is too bright for it. And I want my leaves chartreusey. You'll see the leaves on this is just like a chartreuse, not dark green. If your leaves are dark green, then you are not giving this plant enough light. There's kind of this fallacy that these plants grow in shade, and they really don't. They could be telestral or they could be ground plants. When I first got my first orchid, my first cymbidium, which was years ago, I knew nothing about it. So I took it and I took it out of the pot and I put it in the ground. I planted it right in the ground like any other plant. And it bloomed. I got 3 stalks of orchids, but the snails and slugs went crazy. They ate everything. So now I only leave them in containers. And we want to use a planting mix. I use a good loose planting soil. I put some bark in and I put some perlite in. And I mix it together, and that's my planting mix for cymbidiums. So these guys are great outside. They need to chill outside to set bloom, and but they're great to bring inside when they're blooming and enjoy them. They're very, very impressive inside. People are impressed that you could grow such a beautiful thing, and it really doesn't take that much effort. So there you go. Take another drink of water. These are dendrobiums. They're not your usual dendrobiums. These I grow outdoors and then bring inside. Dendrobiums there's 1,800 different species of dendrobiums. Um, these guys don't like quite as much sun as the cymbidiums. They'll take a good morning light and be happy. But they need light to bloom. So a little south light wouldn't hurt. You can grow these indoors also. The flowers you can see on the right, they're very little, but they're very pretty. So when you see them in mass, they're quite impressive. They get a winter rest and the lower temperatures, like cymbidiums. And I don't withhold water. I, around here, it doesn't rain for 3 or 5 weeks, so I guess that's withholding water in the winter. They like to be cramped. They like moisture, but they don't, of course, like sitting in water. Nobody does. And it is a terrestrial potting mix that I use, same as the cymbidium. And these guys smell absolutely fantastic. It's just so nice to have plants that have this strong of an odor. When you walk by, you're just like overwhelmed with the smell. It's just such a happy feeling to smell them. So I just love these and I give them away. I have more white ones now because I've divided them and I have like 4 or 5 big, huge plants. And it pretty much fills the one side of my deck, but it's worth it. They don't bloom for a long period, but they are really fantastic. And I love bringing them inside and, sharing them with people that come to my home. Okay, you're on.
Oh, okay. So next we're going to talk about the foliage houseplants. Foliage houseplants are all the beautiful leaves and the different shapes and the different textures and the different colors. And you can tell when your foliage is very healthy and just like Cindy just mentioned, they need a lot of light, they need water, and I wouldn't overwater plants, even when they're growing indoors. I think that one of the most the things that people do to kill their plants is to overwater them. I know Cindy has talked about this a lot during our presentations. They also need air. And in addition to air, I have a grandson who they need movement. In nature, outside, they do have movement. And we have this big monstera plant. It just reminds me about movement. And my grandson, who is now 13, he just kind of like brushes by that big old monstera plant in my daughter's house. And and I'm thinking, is he going to knock the leaves off? But actually, he never does. And he's moving it, and that thing is just thriving. And it could be because it has a lot of air and ventilation and movement. Temperature, usually, the regular home temperature is good. I don't know what everybody does, but usually, around 65 degrees seems very comfortable to most people. Some of these leaves do need humidity. Uh, and looking at the root care, I always know that when the plant starts kind of drooping and you can lift it up and you can see the roots coming out, that's the time when we talked about propagation, when you need to divide it or take it out or put it in a slightly larger container. And usually when you do that, the container should only be about 2 inches larger than the present container if you are going to transplant plant it. And I talked about mechanical damage. A lot of times, things happen in homes. For instance, I talked about my grandson. Luckily, the plant hasn't been damaged. I don't know about mechanical damage. Cindy, do you know? Can you add anything about that? Because I don't have
Um,
experienced it.
well, yeah, I can add, and I think it comes up in one of the things that I say, but I'll say it now. One thing that you need to do, and that's you need to dust your plants. Um, so this plant on the left looks like it has some kind of oil on it. I don't know, but it looks like it has some kind of oil or there's a product that they sell to make the leaves shiny. I would not use that product. The reason why is because underneath the leaves, we have stomatas, which take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. So we don't want to damage those stomatas. And I think that's mechanical damage. Um, so when we start putting all this oil and stuff on leaves and we don't dust them, top and bottom, those stomatas get clogged up and the plant can't function properly. So that's something that you need to, take care with.
And I can tell you that I did take that picture, and believe it or not, that is as shiny as at one point. Well, they still are. My ZZ plant right now, for some reason they are. I do dust them off lightly, and sometimes a larger plant, I'll really take a nice soft rag and dust them off. But for some reason, those ZZ plants do have that shiny. I
Hmm.
remember I didn't even put the photo credit. Well, I did. But I remember taking that photo because they were so incredibly shiny.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
And what's the plant on the right? I don't know that plant. Is that
Oh gosh, I have it. Is it called like a Chinese plant or I can't remember, but actually I have one still and I don't remember the name of it. I'm
does
sorry.
it get flowers?
It's mine has never gotten flowers, but
Yeah,
I got it because
very
called
pretty.
Chinese money plant, maybe?
Oh, very pretty.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that, so I might have to look that up. Yeah.
You're right, Cynthia.
Oh, okay, good, good. So pests, we've talked so much about the different kinds of pests. I think that, maybe Cindy can elaborate on the pests because I can't remember the names of the different pests right now. But I do know that we have a lot of those little fungus gnats, and that's caused by, too much water, and then you'll have to take out the soil and not have the water so dry. I mean, the plant not dry, but not so moist either. And there are just so many pests. Cindy, can you elaborate on
Well, yeah, the fungus gnats they only live for like a day, but they lay a ton of eggs in your
right?
soil and
Yeah,
on
it
your
seems
leaves.
like they live
Yeah,
longer because there's so many of them and they are
yeah.
reproducing quite rapidly.
Yeah. So even if you take an inch off your soil, I mean, they don't bury their eggs any deeper than an inch. Take an inch off your soil and add new soil, which is good for the plant too. And then don't overwater it. That's the key to these little gnats. They only come if things are rotting or super wet. So if you don't do that, you won't have them. But other pests that we have are mealybug, scale, um, spider mites, um, trying to think of the other one, thrips. Those are the most common. And like I said, when you buy the plant, make sure it's clean. Because and I've also, just to say, talk about pests for a minute. I've also put my plants out. I have an orchid that um, I got it probably 35 years ago, and I bargained for it because they were real expensive then, and I wanted one. So I got this out of bloom one at Rite Aid for like $7. Well, I love this orchid. It means a lot to me. And it got mealybug because I had violets and they came in with mealy. So I put it outside and all the beneficial insects ate the mealy and I got rid of it. So that's, an option too. Put it outside in the summer and in the shade and see if, um, the insects will take care of the bugs for you. So,
Okay, and lastly, I know that what I do with all of my houseplants, I don't actually water my houseplants that often, maybe about even every 10 days. And I just make sure that they're a little dry and they'll tell you when the plants will tell you when they get a little droopy that they need a little water. But I always take I go to extreme measures not to put too much water on them. The
mhm.
fertilizer sometimes, maybe like once every 6 weeks or so, I mix an ocean-based, I don't know what you call it. I have a concentrate and I mix that with my watering. What do you do for your fertilizers? And I just put it on there every 6 to 8 weeks. What do
Is
you
that
do, Cindy?
seaweed? Do you use seaweed? A
Seaweed,
seaweed,
yes,
yeah,
seaweed.
seaweed
Yes.
emulsion. I
Yes.
use seaweed too.
Oh, okay.
I like seaweed and what's the other one? Um,
I've
fish,
also
fish,
seen,
fish.
those dissolvable pellets that I have that in my like Ficus lyrata, but and I did sprinkle those, and it was supposed to be specifically for that plant, but I noticed that I don't water it as frequently, so I don't know if they dissolve that fast. So I wasn't too impressed with those
Mhm.
pellet little things.
I think a good organic fertilizer is what you should use.
Yes, yes. Okay, so foliage houseplants. You have like Silver Queen. A lot of these are so popular. The fiddle leaf fig, which is Ficus lyrata. You see those in big box stores now, and they're very tall. I know we have a really tall one. And Cindy has talked about peace lilies, which they do need some light, and also the Dracaena marginata. So we select different foliage plants for different purposes, and you see them a lot in shopping malls. Some of them grow so big, especially like those Dracaenas, and they're selected for their survival. They'll just last for years. I know that we have a fiddle leaf fig that has lasted for a long time. A highlight plant will maintain in a moderate light environment, but they'll decline if there is very low light. Um, Also, like in a mall, I have also seen like if it's placed under like a skylight or something in a mall, I've seen them kind of like show burning effects because they're getting too much light from that skylight. Um, Choose the right foliage plant for your home spot. Your houseplants can be perfectly happy in maintenance mode where they're not growing. So a lot of times I can even look around my room right now, and it doesn't seem like they have periods of growth and periods where they don't seem to be growing. They have periods like my spathiphyllums where they have beautiful blooms and then other times, I guess they're just regenerating to get more blooms. I know that I also recently separated a piece lily and gave put the other part of that plant by division in a pot and gave it to a friend. It's always good to have see them growing so much that you can propagate them.
Mhm.
Oh, and I've talked about ficus. I love the ficus plant. Um, I love this Ficus triangularis. Have you ever tried that one, Cindy?
I've never grown that one. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and I managed to get one time, but it just wouldn't grow for me for some reason. But
Too
I just
hybrid,
thought,
maybe.
yeah, I thought it's so beautiful. And this other, Ficus benjamina, a lot of people have those in their homes.
Hmm.
So these plants need moderate to low light. I know that a lot of people have that weeping fig in their homes. Keep soil moist and again not too wet or dry. And a lot of times plants will not overgrow depending on the size of their container. And also they do respond to pruning. And so you can basically like prune off to the shape that you want or the shape that will fit your space. And again, ficus tend to have scales, mealybugs, or spider mites. And so basically every time I water, I kind of like look at all of the underneath the leaves and the stems just to make sure there are no pests lurking around. Because if I think that if you get them quick enough, you're able to do something with them.
Yeah, but much better chance.
Yes, yes. By either spraying or, taking them outside or uh,
Hmm.
they're just different products that are not harmful that you can use.
Hmm.
So these ficus are popular upright plants and so many people have them and I know malls have them and offices have them. They're sensitive to moving and light levels with leaf drop, a symptom. So if there's too much, if you move them from one location to the other or change the light levels, you might have leaf drop on some of them, but usually they come back. What have you experienced, Cindy?
Oh, yeah, they'll have leaf drop. Just moving them across the room, they'll have leaf drop. They're
Yeah,
very fussy about changing their environment for
yeah,
sure.
but don't panic because they
No.
do seem to
Yeah, they'll grow back.
regenerate.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually grow ficus outside, and I've done pretty well with them. I had them inside, and I sometimes I grow weary of my indoor plants. Some of them, they just don't perform the way I think they should. So I move them outside for a while
Mhm.
to see how they do. If they do well, they stay out there. So ficuses do pretty well outside in a secluded, by trees, under trees, and that kind of thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
just a bit of information.
Right. And so there are Marantas. I hope I'm saying that right. I know that I took this picture. There is a beautiful one at my daughter's house. It must be right in the right location, and she's probably giving it just the right amount of water. It's called a prayer plant. I haven't been as successful as my daughter has. Maybe I don't have the right plant in the right place, but it requires partial shades, and the colors will fade in bright light with and no direct sun. So you do keep this one moist. So it does require a little bit more attention. You reduce, of course, watering in the winter and use tepid water and no hard water. On this plant, you can tell that it is a little bit more fussy because you have to miss the leaves regularly. And I'm surprised that my daughter can grow this plant because I don't think she gives it this much attention.
That's probably why it grows.
Maybe so, maybe
No
so.
attention.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, a lot of these plants that I have around here, and believe me, I have a lot in every room, um, it's because I don't pay them a lot of attention.
Hmm.
So they're also low growing and they don't get very high, but they are so, as you can tell by that picture, they are so beautiful.
Hmm.
All right, palms.
Palms. Mm. Um, Palms really are really elegant in the home. They come from different places. Some are tropical, some are desert. Um, some come from cold, some come from very hot, but they really are elegant. And there's 2,600 different species. And we're going to try to talk and see if we can find the right one for your home. Next. Palms can be an understory in the rainforest or wherever they come from. Some are understories. They grow under trees, so they don't need quite as much light as a ficus or something else. And they also grow in the desert where there's no protection. So you just have to pick the right one for your home. So trimming a palm is really, really important. If you take a if you take your pruners and cut the top of a palm off, it will die. It'll just die. You have to cut the frond off, that's what the leaves are called, from the bottom. Cut it off from the bottom, and then the plant won't die. But if you take it from the top, it will be very unhappy. Next, Cynthia. The soil for palm should be loose draining, rich. It should be a rich soil with some compost in it, but maybe some perlite also to maintain moisture. These guys like moisture. Um, so, and I will say, I would go back because after Cynthia was talking about moisture, I realized I forgot to tell you something about orchids. That's okay.
Oh, okay.
Um, when I worked at the florist, we had a big greenhouse, and we sold a lot of orchids. And people would bring their orchids in and say, I don't know what's wrong with it. It's drooping. The leaves are drooping. I keep giving it water, but it won't come back. So I used to like to take a piece of newspaper, dump the whole orchid out on the newspaper, and show them that they have rotted the roots. That's why the plant is limp, because it can't take up water because they've rotted all the roots. So um, I wanted to say that about orchids. If your plant is wilting, it's not because it needs water. It's because the roots are not taking up water. Okay, I said that. So good hardy soil for your palms. Water, yes. Temperature, they like it. They like pretty warm. And a house 50 to 65 degrees is good. They like some humidity. And another way to create humidity is with some rocks at the bottom of the water tray. Um, and they like to be fertilized, like Cynthia said. I don't fertilize mine, like the container says. I like to do it almost quarterly. Um, and a lot of our house plants, the water, we don't need to water, but maybe once or twice a month. And I'll say this about watering. I know a lot of you have schedules for your watering. Every Monday at 10 o'clock, we water the plants. Whether they need it or not, they're getting water. That's not how we water plants. You can get a soil tester and tells you how much humidity is in the soil, how much water is in the soil. So you'll know if you need to water it. They're quite inexpensive and very helpful. But in the winter, these guys don't dry out. So, because it's cool. So we only need, I have dracaenas in my house. Maybe I water them once a month. And when we get to dracaenas, I'll tell you why. but be careful with the watering. Next page. Um, common type palms for your home. This parlor palm, fan palm, which is on the left, that's a fan palm. Um, Kentia palm, very nice palm. Kentia palm is really a nice palm. I recommend it. It's not too large, and it has beautiful fronds. Very nice. Phoenix Robolini needs a lot of light to grow indoors, and it has thorns. So I've worked with these, and they stick me, and then I hate them. So um, so keep that in mind. But they're very pretty, and a lady palm. Okay.
All right, so succulents. When I first became a master gardener, you can tell. I think you can see. I can't see my own image right now, but I just was so enamored with succulents. I came from a climate that was just desert, and so I could only have cacti. But when I came here, and I actually live in El Granada, California, close to the ocean, um, I just decided, and I went through the master gardener program, and I had to redesign actually that whole terrace behind me, which faces south, by the way. Um, I wanted a drought tolerant garden, and so a lot of my plants are succulents. So I just developed a very, just wonderful, loving succulents, and I think that that was actually one of my very first Master Gardener presentations.
They're
So,
beautiful too. Your
oh,
garden's beautiful.
well, thank you. Thank you. It still takes I always thought succulents didn't take a lot of work, but even they grow huge. As a matter of fact, a lot right now I do need to do a lot of trimming and even pulling up of succulents because when
Mm,
they've been there a few years, they do get overgrown.
mm.
Succulents and cacti can also be, grown indoors. I know that Cindy has that big, beautiful picture of that. Is it a Christmas or is it an Easter cactus?
Um, I think that's a Christmas cat. I do have both, so it's hard to
Right.
tell, but I think
I
it's a
sometimes
Christmas.
I know that there's a difference, and I did look it up one time, but they are very similar. And I have one growing actually. The house faces north, but behind me there it faces south, and then the back of our house faces south as do most of the windows. So
Hmm.
I do have one of those growing indoors as well, and it does bloom because it's facing outdoors. Another thing that I don't think I took a picture of it, but they have these tables and they have like coffee tables and they have like under mine is like under the window table and it has like it's almost like a planting station and I thought that is perfect for succulents because you don't have to water them so much. So
Hmm.
I did put dirt in there and there's a glass that is elevated and I have beautiful whole little beautiful display and it's right under a south window so sometimes they bloom in there too. So you've got to make sure that they get enough light. Definitely, they need about 6 hours of light a day. Um, and if they're not in a certain spot, you should rotate them frequently. They do tend to grow towards the light, and so you do need to like turn them every now and then when you're seeing that they're growing, and then they'll just kind of grow back up, and then they're going to face the other way. So you do have to rotate them quite frequently. And you can water according to the season. You can tell, like in your home, even there's more humidity certain times of the year. And succulents, they take in water not just through the roots, but they take them in through the stems and leaves. I think that that's why I have this drought tolerant garden. I don't even have irrigation in that whole area on because I just decided I'd pick we always say right plant in the right spot, right place. And so it just according to the season. So in where I live, it gets really warm. Our summer season, it seems like around this area is in September and October. And if there's less rain, I do have to go out there and water them, but that just during that really hot season here. Also, we're very lucky around here for succulents outdoors is because we live close to the ocean and And there's a lot of humidity in the air, and that's what also helps the succulents grow here. So you water the soil directly. Make sure that you're just watering the soil. I don't overwater anything with my houseplants indoors. Keep them clean, just like all the other houseplants. You need to like look to get rid of the bugs, to make sure they don't have mealy bugs. I know that for some reason succulents, my succulents seem to have more mealy bugs than other types of pests. How about you, Cindy? What do you
I've
see?
had them. I don't have many pests in my garden, but I have had some mealybug on some of my succulents in the center of the plant.
Right.
But I've gotten rid of them. But these are outside. Inside, I don't grow succulents inside. Mine are all outside. But
Yeah.
it would be interesting to try to grow them inside. I have to try that.
Yeah, I just have mine in the south window and they seem to be doing really well. And of course, for succulents, definitely you need containers with a lot of drainage. As a matter of fact, right now, one of my hobbies is doing pottery, and I usually put like maybe 3 to 5 holes in the containers that I will be planting succulents in. So it's got to have really good drainage, and you can't have that water, you know um, at the bottom of your container. So plant in the right soil. There's a mix, that there's different kinds of mixes, but I make sure that, it has like different kinds of soil. What do you use, Cindy, in yours? I buy a commercial one.
I like potting soil for my indoor plants, um, as long as it's fast draining,
Right.
because
Okay.
it's a little richer than like a seeding soil or something that's thinner and really well, a lot of air
Right.
spaces.
What do
So
you think about putting crushed rock in yours?
in the bottom,
Yeah, well, not in the bottom. I hear that we're not supposed to do that anymore.
no, because
Yeah.
things grow under there. You mean
Yeah.
in the soil like perlite?
Yeah, like perlite.
I think perlite's fine because I think it creates more air spaces
Right.
and helps with the moisture.
Right.
So,
And and I don't think succulents need a lot of fertilizer. I don't really fertilize a lot. I have good soil outdoors and indoors. Make sure that there's a little bit of compost mixed in with that. When I buy my commercial potting soil for succulents, it has it in there and it lasts for quite a while.
yeah, because if you feed it fertilizer that makes it grow, it will bloom and die. Um,
Yes.
and the same with herbs. I talk about herbs too, and we do this. We have the same theory with herbs. We don't want them to grow grow huge because they're going to flower and then they'll die, and we
Right.
don't want that. So,
Yeah. So I think that's just a good, they just really don't need much care.
mhm,
They're just beautiful all by
mhm,
themselves. All right, so these are different kinds of succulents and cacti. A lot of people, I know that I had a huge jade plant. Actually, I've had to almost take the thing out. In California, they grow almost like trees. I think
mhm.
some of you all have seen those.
They get big.
Yeah, they get very big. As a matter of fact, I had to take one out of our yard so I could plant other plants there. Sedum burro's tail, that's a really good trailing plant
That's a
that's a
nice plant.
succulent.
Hmm.
And I just love to see that in a hanging basket.
Hmm.
Kalanchoe tomatosa is like a panda plant. I don't know if you've seen those different ones. I'm just gonna not go over each one of those, but all of those are really good plants that you can plant indoors as long as they get enough light.
A zebra plant is a succulent?
Uh, that's what our resources said.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
There, I learned
yeah,
something new.
yeah. Okay, so we're going to go into the hanging, trailing, and climbing house plants. There's a variety of these, and they're so popular because they're, just when you think about climbing plants, they need to be supported. The trailing plants need to trail and are grown with stems hanging downwards. And some varieties do both, like pothos. And I know that so many of us have those kind of plants, pictured. I know that there's a lot of different trailing succulents there. Those are a string of they're called fish hooks, and I think, oh my goodness, I can't think of all the ones that are trailing now. And I think that those have come about in our big box stores and things just recently. Can you think of the names of other ones? String
There's
of
hanging
pearls.
dolphins, there's hanging turtles,
Yeah, there's
um,
yeah. There's a string of
pearls,
pearls, which
string
are,
of pearls.
yeah.
They're
So
quite fun. I have quite a few of them and they're fun to collect.
yeah,
They're
they're
great
fun to
shapes.
collect, and they look so good hanging out of pots.
Yeah, they do.
So here is an inch plant. Um, it's a very reliable. I think that you have seen this one before. Inch plant. Um, I think it used to be called something else. And they're also purple, I think. So
Hmm.
it's a good hardy and spilling plant for beginners. It does need bright light. I have actually some out there outside. I have a
Hmm.
planting table and I just have it there and it's just growing. Um, you need to dry the soil out before watering. I think that that's why mine um, lives outside. It does get dry before I think about watering it. And you do reduce the watering during the colder months, and you repot when leggy. Yeah, the cuttings definitely easy root, and they restart after rooting in a pot. Mine just kind of reroots in the pot. I don't know if they just get cut or something, but that pot just keeps on growing. So I just
Hmm.
I just love this inch plant. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah, I grow it outside.
Yeah, mine just
And
grow.
mine goes dormant in the winter and it's coming back right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
it's beautiful.
yeah, it's very pretty in the summer.
Yeah.
I don't do anything to it except water it occasionally. I never feed it. I never do anything, and it's always beautiful.
Yeah,
So
that's how mine
outside.
is.
Yeah.
I feel almost guilty, but yet it's always there, so
Yeah.
it's good. Okay, Hoya. Hoya is one of my very favorite plants. As a matter of fact, the one over, okay, on the one on the right is like a Hoya carnosa. And I actually don't have that inside, but I have it like in a sunny or a kind of shaded sunny spot right outside my door. And those are beautiful. I appreciate these Hoyas so much. Those
Hmm.
beautiful, and those little flowers are like little waxy leaves. You can see on the bottom picture, they start coming out as pink and then they just bloom out.
Hmm.
They have bright light with some direct sun, and I just happened to put mine there out the door. It was a gift from another master gardener who moved away, and I was so appreciative. I think she moved away about 8 years ago, and it's still thriving. It likes cool temperatures in winter, and it doesn't freeze where I am, so I can keep it outdoors. I do water it in summer pretty well. Um, I don't have to mist it because, and I think if you live in I live in a humid climate, but you don't have to, you mist for humidity if you're not around, like living next to the ocean. But you don't mist it when it's in bloom, and you repot it when necessary. The one on the left is called a Hoya carrii. And that's how that plant looked when I first got it. On the bottom one in the yellow pot, it's called a Valentine's plant, and you might see it at box stores with that one. That one, I bought a variegated one, and it does not root like that, but it's a good gift and it lasts for 6 or 7 weeks, I guess. But I did splurge because I remember that I think it only had about three leaves when I first bought it. I actually brought it here so you could see it now. It's a variegated one. I have no idea, but I don't know if, can you see that? What I'm,
No,
anyway,
no,
it is,
it
um,
looks
It
pretty.
it kind of
yeah,
blends in with your background.
oh, okay. Well, it's huge right now, and I'm so proud of it. And I remember just getting that one little plant and it had about 2 or 3 leaves, and it was like $60. And I thought at the time, oh my God, I'm paying
Mm.
that much money, but now I don't even know how many leaves it has on it. So
Hmm.
I love Hoyas, you can tell. Okay, bulbs. Cindy will talk about
Bulbs.
bulbs.
I wanted to say a couple things before I started bulbs. One,
Okay.
um, when you're selecting the light for your window, as when Cynthia said she, lived on the coast, it reminded me. Cynthia's light is different than my light. So her south window is different than my south window because she lives on the coast and the light is more diffused and she's got fog and she's got all kinds of other environmental things. So think about that when you buy a plant. If you live on the coast, your plant could take maybe a west window. If you really want to give it, needs high light, or even if I would grow it in south light, you might grow it in west light. Anyway, I just thought of that and I thought I'd say that. Um, and also, anyway, bulbs. These are plants that you can force in your home. That's a nasturtium, amaryllis, and a grape hyacinth. Um, Starting with the narcissus on the left, they probably will never look like that picture in the home. Maybe someone grew that in the home, but I have never had any luck really growing these guys in the home. They grow and they bloom, but they don't bloom so profusely just because of the environment and the light. They just need more light. They're definitely outdoor. However, the amaryllis are fantastic. They are beautiful. And I'm sure everybody's grown one at Christmas time. And these new amaryllis are incredible. They take the bulb and they wet the bulb and then they put the bulb in a plastic bag and then dip it in wax. And you never have to water it. You don't have to take care of it. You just put it on your counter and let it bloom. That's my kind of plant. Um, and they bloom more than once. So they're gorgeous. They're beautiful at Christmas. They're forced. They don't naturally bloom at Christmas. I have some in the garden that are going to bloom because I like to take them after they bloom in the house and cut the wax off, cut the plastic bag off, and plant it in I have an big amaryllis pot, and I add the bulb to that. And they're going to be blooming probably in the next week or two. So that's their natural bloom time is spring. So they're great. The grape hyacinths, they'll grow and bloom. Might be a little leggy, but give you a nice splash of color. So, it's good. Amaryllis is a bulb from South Africa, and the truly one species is Amaryllis belladonna. That's the naked lady that we all grow in our gardens, the pink flower that blooms in fall. Um, They come from South and Central America. There's 90 species, over 600 cultivars in the genus. These flowers are commercially sold around Christmas. As I said, they're forced to bloom. Next. So if you want to grow a narcissus, you can grow it directly in water. There are blooming containers. You put the bulb in and there's water underneath and the plant will bloom. Um, and the display will last 1 or 2 weeks. You can also put it in soil if you want and try blooming it that way. But once you bloom it, it will never bloom again. So it's best to just compost it. And the hyacinth bulbs, I just love hyacinths. I think they're just so beautiful and they smell incredible. So you can grow those right in gravel. You can grow them in gravel. You can grow them directly in water. So the bulb vase is bigger in the top and smaller in the bottom. And you put the bulb in, and just the bottom of the bulb hits the water. And this one says you need to keep in dark location for a while. And the hyacinth will send out roots. and then you move it into a brighter spot. Again, these probably will be leggy inside, but they definitely all need high light and some food in the water. Large indoor house plants. This is, oh, go back to that one.
Oh, okay.
This is my Monstera, which is behind me. And I got this plant 41 years ago. And I got it as a gift. It was, small. And I just loved it. And it was so sentimental to me. And so I have been growing it in the same spot for all that time. And I've had it try to grow across the ceiling. So I've cut it. I gave it a haircut and it filled out and it's got air roots all over the place. And I take it out in the summer, much to my husband and grandson's dismay, because the thing is darn heavy. The container's big because the plant's big. And I have a pot holder which you can pick the pot up, in the commercial, the man and the woman pick it up with no, with ease, but when they start to move it, they don't have to move it very far, but it's heavy. But they move it outside for me every summer. I'll probably move it out in another month or so. And it sits in the shade. And it is incredible what that does for this plant. I have all kinds of new leaves sprout. I feed it. I put some compost on top. And and in the house, I water it. I don't give it a lot of water. It doesn't need a lot of water. The canes have water in them, but when I take it outside, I put the hose to it, and it loves it. I wash it off. I feed it, and it just rejuvenates the plant. It still looks pretty good for the end of the year. I've still got new leaves blooming out, and it just makes my heart happy to have this plant.
Have you ever repotted it, Cindy?
I did. I have repotted it several times. Now it's in a really large pot. And I just recently bought, um, it's called, what's it called? It's right here with me, but it's too heavy to lift. It's the new Monstera that's called, I think it's called Constellation. It's variegated with white and green. It's quite pretty. And it's a Monstera. And I've already got 3 new leaves on it. And I don't know where I'm going to put it because it's little now. But when it gets this size, I'll have to think about where to put it. But they're quite nice too. Okay. Large indoor house plants. Light, of course, is the most important thing. And as Cynthia mentioned, watering these plants. Overwatering is the first #1 death of plants, house plants. Big plants, little plants, orchids, you name it. They're all, if you overwater them, they will die. So I just want to mention that. So it's better to underwater than overwater. So light is important for these big plants, but that big leaf surface, if you look at the leaf on the right, this plant can take a lot of light in because the leaf surface is huge. And so is the Monstera. So it doesn't need quite as much direct light because it can take a lot in with a little less light. And then again, you have to dust it and you have to pinch it. And if it starts getting leggy, don't be afraid to prune it. Prune it and it'll become more compact. I don't like my plants growing all over the ceiling and stuff. I like them to be sort of compact. So I prune a lot. I prune all my plants a lot so that they have a nice shape and they're not leggy. I take off all the dead leaves. Woo!
Sorry.
You're ahead of me. I take off all the dead leaves and brown leaves, and you have to pick the right variety for the right spot again. Okay. Now, Cynthia. Ficuses. Ficuses are so popular. people really like ficus. I've been looking at this plant and I'm noticing white spots on it, and it's really bothering me. I don't remember, this isn't my plant. I took this picture somewhere, and I'm hoping that's not mealybug anyway. This is a ficus lyrata, and it's got big leaves. Um, so this plant is a little forgiving if you don't put it in really bright light. The Benjamina needs bright light because those leaves are little. They don't take in much energy, so it needs more light. This plant has big leaves and takes in a lot of energy. I volunteer at the Arboretum in San Mateo, and they have one in their pump house, but it's not against a window. It's in the middle of the room, and it's doing beautifully. So um, there you go.
And that plant has been there probably for years because the main stem is so thick,
Yep,
so
it is
beautiful.
beautiful. It's a beautiful lorata. And then there's the rubber tree. And they have beautiful variegated rubber trees today. That's also a ficus type. And the ficus ali has a long, narrow leaf. It's a very pretty weeping type of ficus. Palms. We talked a little bit about palms. There's a rhapis palm. This is I think this is a Phoenix robellini or a sago palm. I'm not sure.
Looks like a sago.
Yeah. You have to be careful with sagos because you know they're poisonous. So if you have pets or young children, you might not want to put that in your home. Um, Ponytail palm, bamboo palm is nice. It doesn't get too huge. The bamboo palm is more of a compact palm rather than a flailing, like this palm. Okay. Dracaenas. The picture on the left is a Warnicki. It's white and green, very pretty. If you could, maybe you could see the stems or the stalks. Those stems and stalks are full of water. So you do not want to overwater this plant. I have them. I have one, several actually, and I only water it maybe once a month, maybe more. I don't, even in the summer, I don't overwater it. And it does not like tap water. None of these dracaenas like tap water. They get brown circles, which are quite unattractive. It's from the tap water. So if you have some bottled water or filtered water, they will like it much better, and the leaves will stay prettier. Um, Janet Craigie is the most popular. That's the green with the fairly wide leaves. The marginata is the one that we've been seeing on the pictures, the tall, kind of flailing, thin-leaved, pink and white thin leaves. Very pretty, but it tends to get leggy. And I will say this about dracaenas. I have brutally cut the top off of a dracaena, and they will resprout and be more compact and be more attractive. You just have to live with the ugly stalks for a while until they grow, which could take, 3, 4 months for it really to develop, or even 6 months. And the marginata is one that really does get leggy, and it's very attractive when it's compact. And then there's the corn plant. It's green and yellow, also very popular. This is a really nice plant because it does not require high light. It will grow in a bright room beautifully. So a lot of people have these because they don't have high light. Um, Sometimes you'll lose the coloring, the striping. If it's not in, enough light, the plant will continue to grow, but you'll lose the coloring and it'll turn green. So something to keep in mind. Ferns, if you're an overwater, this is the plant for you because these guys like water. Um, this is a maidenhair fern on the left. I have maidenhair ferns. I just love them. I think they're so beautiful. And the other one is a bird nest fern, which is also beautiful. This grows in the trees and high up in the tree in a piece of moss. And I mean, I just imagine how beautiful it would be to see it growing in nature. Okay. These are some ferns that I kind of cataloged. The bird nest fern on the left, this is a fern that grows in the rainforest. It needs humidity. And of course, it doesn't have humidity at my house, so the edges kind of turn brown. I try my best to give it humidity, but it really likes a lot of humidity. So you get the brown edges. Frustrating, but that's the way it is. And then the fern next to it is rabbit's foot fern. You can see the fuzzy root. It looks like a rabbit's foot. This grows very well inside and outside. And then next to that is a blade fern, which also grows very well inside or outside. And then the holly fern below it, which is a beautiful fern, um, just gorgeous. Big, long, uh, draping fronds or leaves. And then the Boston fern, which probably we've all grown, which is very suited to our indoor climate.
Oops.
I don't know if I said everything there. Oh, let's go back. I'm sorry. I got off of my own tantrum there. Ferns like sun, temperatures, can't see what that says, range from, warm. They like it warm. These are pretty good feeders. You can feed them a little more often. Important to repot when they're overgrown. You can tell when they're overgrown because the roots start coming out the bottom over the top. So that's important. Okay. These are some good choices of ferns. The Japanese holly fern, the deerfoot fern, bird nest fern, Boston fern, harefoot fern, and the brake fern. And I think the one on the right, I think it kind of looks like fennel to me, but I probably an asparagus fern. I think, I'm not sure. So,
Okay, there's so many ways to display your plants. You can see floating shelves. A lot of people, I've been in, offices and other buildings, public buildings, and in different homes where they have beautiful displays, shelves, and a lot of times they're put close, very close to the window, like that one in the on the left top. It looks like a ficus lyrata, and it's right in front of like a nice window. Um, some people can hang them, and I thought some of these were kind of clever, even hanging on a room divider like a clothes rack. I don't know what I would to put there to make it look less like a clothes rack, but I think that those displays like the one they put books on the bottom shelf, and that looks like a fancy clothes rack. So clothes racks and hanging plants. Small plant holders on bookcases. Actually, that's what I have here in my main room. I have a lot of bookshelves, and then I just put little things here and there. They are kind of hard to take care of because you have to kind of tend to them every now and then. The ones on the right, that kind of succulent doesn't need a lot of tending, but the ones on the left, some of those plants do need more care or more water. Propagation displays. I know that I have seen the ones on the right before where you can just get little displays, and they have like those little tubes that look like test tubes or something, and they'll do a lot of propagation in there. The ones on the left, I have those hanging on my wall. And they last quite a while before I need to like change out the water. Usually when they start rooting, I'll root them in there and then plant them and then start all over again because I have like very large plants that I frequently need to trim off and probably root and maybe give to somebody else. Um, mobiles. I love mobiles. Actually, that one mobile I have air plants, or they're called Tillandsia in that one mobile on the left. I just bought a lot of glass bulbs and created that little structure on the top to hang them from. So you can do mobiles. You can do those. I have those ones in the middle in my bathroom, and I put the air plants or tillandsia in those, and also just decorative planters. And there's so many of those. There's other ways, window hangers. I've never actually tried that because it just seemed like kind of a lot of work. You can have those shelves, or you can have them hanging in front, or bed slats. They're just all of these are from just different ways to look at plants. I'm always amazed at all the different ways that people devise to bring the outdoors indoors. And here are some more displays, little Tillandsia holders there on the left. And there's another Tillandsia holder in the middle. I have that one, and actually, you can't see it. That's a very big Tillandsia or air plant. And it's just a wire thing with three prongs, and you frequently just every 10 days or so put it in water and water it an air like you do air plants or spray it, and then it's just anchored on a wire with three prongs. Also, I'm into driftwood, so and also painting owls on rocks. So I put that on the driftwood and put an air plant in the middle of it. So there's so many ways we can use. I know we all use this. This presentation has lasted longer than we thought, but I love this quote: "We breathe easier among the trees. We smile at the beauty of flowers. Plants are an excuse to slow down, a reason to breathe, and an opportunity to learn." I hope that all of you all have learned a lot about houseplants, and we continue to learn. The rest of this, you will probably get a copy of this presentation, but we're all always thinking about the soil that's where we plant, and that's where our soil, that's where our plants live. And then we have our references, everything that we've, taken all the resources from this presentation. We had a lot of resources that we looked at. And we want to thank Lingsell Garden Materials and our UC Master Gardeners for this presentation. And we're very, very pleased that, and we hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from this houseplant presentation. Stay connected with our monthly newsletter, and we have either our QR codes or links that you can look at our monthly newsletter. And we are a volunteer organization, and so that's a link to our donation program. And we have a hotline. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the hotline, and we have them in person and we have them via email. And so that's the information. If you have a gardening question or a houseplant question, those are all the resources or links that you can type in especially the email, or you can bring a plant actually into those locations in Northern California. And we'll be glad to answer your questions. And if we don't know the answer, we'll research it. So can for the questions.
Yeah, there are a couple in the chat. If folks do have questions, do send them in and we'll address them now. Okay, so do you have any advice for blue red lights that stimulate UV light for plants that like more light?
Certainly, you could use UV lights. We don't recommend products, but UV lights, if you don't have the light you need for a certain plant, you certainly could use it. We don't have a problem with it. But we don't have a recommendation. I don't anyway. Cynthia, do you?
No, but I just actually talked to a friend a couple of days ago, and she lives in a condo, and she has literally no light at all in her
Yeah.
condo, and she does use it to grow her herbs. So,
Hmm.
and I'm not familiar with the like that kind of lighting.
Hmm.
I would just maybe like we have Google and we can, I always say, what's the best UV light plants for growing plants indoors?
Yeah.
That's all I've
Um,
got.
yeah, it's better than not having light. It's not certainly like, putting something in the sun. And I have issue with growing herbs indoors, but that's another whole thing.
Yeah,
They really need to be outdoors to
right.
get the sun, and the sun is what gives them the taste and all that. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, that's another whole thing. So yes,
Yeah,
please
she
do
lives in
use grow
concrete. She
light.
lives in a concrete place, and so
Yeah,
that's what she has. So
I understand. A concrete place sounds terrible.
it does.
Another question?
Yes, so I only have this one here. Um, how do you feed orchids when the water that you would put the um, N or K in just runs right through the orchid?
Yep, that's what it does, runs right through. But when it runs through, the roots are taking up some of that nutrient, and that's what you want. It doesn't sit in there. It runs through, and when you water an orchid, you'll notice when before you water the orchid, the roots are white. After you water the orchid, the roots are green. So those roots are absorbing whatever you're putting on, they're absorbing. And then when they turn white, then it's time to water them again. So, and you can also, with watering an orchid, you can lift the container. If it's really light, then there's no water in it. If it's heavy, then there's probably water in it. But that's how the roots take up the nutrients. Um, they soak it up. When you put it through, they're soaking some of it up. And again, light is much more important than fertilizer for orchids.
Can you soak the orchids in um, trays or containers and then
You can. You could put the fertilizer in and let the orchids soak in the water for a while. But make sure when you're done that you tilt the container on its side so the water drains out, so that the water is not sitting at the bottom of the container. If you just tilt the container, not even 45 degrees, the water will drain out and it'll be good. Especially if it's really dry, you might want to do it that way. But I just, because most of my containers orchids are in clear containers. So I put them in the sink and I water them, and I can see the water moving down um, through the container, and that everything's getting wet, the roots are turning green, and so that's good.
earlier in the talk you had mentioned you buy some plants online. Do you have any references to those websites?
We don't really give out references, but I've bought from all kinds of people. Um, I've bought from people that private buyers. Um, it depends what you're buying, really. There's certain thing I buy every year. It's like a coleus, but it's not a coleus. I buy it every year, and I buy two of them, and I put them in the pot by my back door. I love them, and I buy them from the certain place in Florida. They're the only place I can find that has them. So, you just have to be looking on the web and see something. And, sometimes you just have to buy something once to see what the quality is and how it works. If you like it, Etsy, I bought a lot of stuff from Etsy, private growers that just propagate and sell things. And I bought from a lot of nurseries. So I don't have anything in particular to say about them. Do
Yeah,
you,
neither do
Cynthia?
I, but I've had a lot of luck with Etsy as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They stand behind their product, and the growers make sure that you're happy with your product. Nurseries not necessarily will do that.
Okay. Well, I don't have any more questions. And let's see here. Yep. So no other questions.
Okay.
Any closing remarks that you want to share with the folks here?
Well, we just want to thank everybody for attending. We hope you learned a lot and
We hope so. At
look
least
at the
one thing.
resources. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Cindi. Thank you, Cynthia. Great talk. Again, you can watch this recording under community resources on Linksos page. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.